Hello everyone and welcome to this video. If you don't know me, I'm Nina and I will be bringing you along for the entire Jorvik storyline. Now quick before we begin, I'd like to point out that I also post the entirety of all the story quests on my channel, so if you ever want to look back at the story quest, go ahead. The story goes that Jorvik once was but a mere rock in the middle of the cold sea, the lifeless isle where darkness reigned. One day, a star fell from the sky, and out of its strong, flaming glow came a girl on horseback. As Ideen rode slowly across the sea, her horse's hoofs tamed the wild waves beneath her. In her right hand, she held the light of life. In her left, a golden harp. The music awoke the surrounding nature. She laid a light down on the island, and life and hope poured out of the cold nothingness. Warmth and brightness spread over everything that had been dead. Everything was new. Ideen used her light to create the primeval trees. According to legend, when one of the trees had lost its root connections, she repaired damage using the music of a harp while riding across the sea. Ideen, however, wasn't from this world. Her spirit could not endure on Jorvik anymore. So when her time had come, she sacrificed herself by splitting her soul into two pieces. One went to the horses of the island, while the other went to the humans. And when the two came together, their love would be stronger than anything. However, light cannot exist without darkness, as darkness cannot exist without light. The struggle between good and evil has been secretly raging for thousands of years, as it was thousands and thousands of years ago when Fripp and his people traveled from star system to star system with a terrible cargo. They had imprisoned a creature of pure evil, a monster known as Garnock. Their goal was to travel to the end of the galaxy and imprison him there forever, as punishment for all his monstrous crimes. However, their mission failed when Garnock's henchmen broke free and tried to take over the starship. They crashed on the island and the vessel buried itself deep in the bottom of the ocean. For countless eons, they were all trapped in oblivion, guards and prisoners all together. That was until they began to awaken and realize where they were. Garnock was still trapped in the ship with his generals, but were doing everything they could to release him from his prison, even until this very day. The henchmen of Garnock are not human, hence why they are still walking Jorvik. They simply have powers beyond our imagination. It was a foggy and cold winter morning in the year 1218, sometime in October, when John Jarl's ships had been in dire straits for weeks. With hardly any food or fresh water left on board, the crew of John Jarl was starving, but still didn't dare to stand up to that Jarl. John was convinced he would find uncharted land out in the ocean. God had shown him this in increasingly reoccurring visions. This made some wonder if John was going crazy. The same moment the first mate was about to jump overboard to end his suffering, something happened. The fog suddenly cleared before the ship and revealed rising cliffs above the waters. John and his crew began to yell, "Land ahoy! Land inside! Please let it be more than just a barren rock." It turned out that John was right. The occupants in the first ship, however, never found out, as the sharp rocks, that would later be referred to as the Thorn Rocks, tore out the bottom of the ship, and all the men on the ship were lost. Jarl's ship and the rest of the fleet made a sharp turn when they knew of the fate of the first ship, and so instead they landed at a calmer beach quite a bit further down the coast, south of the Torn Rocks. It was on the beach that John first set his armored foot, and despite his emaciated body, he climbed up a 50-foot cliff, which would later be the site of their first fort. John shouted into the night that he, John Jarl, had claimed the land as his own and had given it the name Jorvik. He would defend it with his life as long as he would live, and with his soul after he was dead. Thunder boomed down the mountains. If John and his crew had not been so relieved at their landing, they might have noticed the sound was not thunder, but a huge herd of wild Jorvik horses, frightened by his shouting. Their new land would turn out richer than they could have ever imagined, and filled with such dangers that would put your most fearsome nightmares to shame. As Jarl's people explored the new island of Jorvik, they found rune stones created by the people with a special connection to the island's magic. And John ordered all of them to be destroyed to prove his claim to the land. The people tried to destroy them, but perished doing so. John ordered the fabled Magnus Steiner to split a runestone near his stable in two, which resulted with the Jarl's horses being driven mad. For 45 years, John wreaked havoc on Jorvik. He had never left the island since the day he first claimed the island as his own. He fought hard for many years, but was viewed as a fair and popular ruler who tried hard to unite the small kingdoms that emerged on the island. Anyone who stood against him would face a dangerous enemy. John Jarl's funeral was held on a bleak fall day in the year of 1263. The funeral lasted 3 days and was followed by a month of official mourning and peace in Jorvik. The funeral was attended by many guests representing nearly all of the clans of Jorvik. One clan in particular was the Silver clan of John's descendants, who still make their home in Silverglade today. Even the local druids who had a good relationship with John Jarl attended the service. But the actual burial was in a tomb not far from the Thorn Rocks, where one of his ships sank to the bottom after they discovered Jorvik. From there he could forever watch over his mighty castle rising in the south. The great tomb consisted of several rooms, and the portal to each room was sealed with a magical runestone that could only be opened with a special magical key, a sun, moon, lightning, and star key. These magical druid seals were acquired skills which are now long forgotten. Sometime in London, England, there was a boy born who would be called Sanghora. Little did anyone know that this boy would become an evil, immortal being. I'm talking about the evil Mr. Sands. It is not known when Mr. Sand or Sanghora was born. We only knew it was in London, England, and that he had many different aliases. On December 14th of 1871, there was an article posted in the Jorvik correspondence. The article showed Mr. Sands then going under the name of Mr. Sandy's big discovery. This is thought to be the start of Mr. Sands' evil life. Mr. Sands was a captain on a fishing boat at the time, while he and his men captured something incredibly dangerous. They had captured the most dangerous monster ever to exist, a creature of pure evil. Somehow, Mr. Sands and his crew fished up Garnock. The article told the following. On the 11th of May, a hideous sea creature was caught in a fisherman's nest just outside Jorvik Bay. The creature seemed to be a deep sea specimen with huge eyes and tentacles. Captain Sandy of the fishing boat says that the net was stuck in something close to an area at the ocean edge known as the Kraken Depths. Unfortunately, before any scientist was able to examine the unknown sea creature, the fisherman had dropped it back into the deep sea just outside of the harbor. Due to immense depth outside Jorvik Bay and the ocean currents, the carcass could not be found again when the scientists' search boat tracked the coastline. I recall a deep sea creature. I don't know much about deep sea creatures, but why would a net be able to go that deep down to catch a deep sea creature? This just got me wondering if Garnock went up to find Mr. Sands, where he there made a deal with him, since that is when Mr. Sands started to change his life and become more and more evil, which would also make sense why he dropped Garnock back into the sea. But that's just me wondering. So we're skipping time to 1890, 19 years later. Not much is known for those 19 years, but what we do know is that Mr. Sands is now going under the name of Owen D. Sands. In 1890, Owen D. Sands started a drilling company called Deep Core. And on the 11th of June, there was yet again another article placed in the papers where they announced the start of Deep Core. Owen D. Sands told everyone that this would change the face of the island forever and that they were going to drill to depths unknown to man. The new industry was hopefully going to employ hundreds of workers and make Jorvik a name in the new global industrial revolution. However, this changed in 1903 when a deep mine accident took place. 90 engineers and workers were presumed to be trapped or dead inside the deep core facility. It was the worst disaster in Jorvik history. This apparently took place on the morning of May 7th. Deep core is nowadays known as dark core, and the people of Jorvik still believe that dark core is a drilling company. However, we and the Druids know better. The next time we heard from Mr. Sands was when he married Annabel Silverglade in 1964 under the name of John Sandman. He had Annabel, as for everyone else, believing that he came from Figrove and was in the council there. This is later proved by a photo of the council, including Mr. Sands, from 1959. Since he hadn't aged even a little by then, it is highly presumable that he did in fact make a deal to free Garnock in exchange for immortality and mind control earlier. Annabel, however, found out about what kind of horrible man Mr. Sands, or John Sandman, was. He told her the dark things he believed and that he heard voices from the sea. It promised him eternal life and power. He said that this voice, it chose him. This voice would have a plan for Annabel as well. So when she found out she was with child, she decided to leave the marriage. She had the child in secret and gave it up for adoption, later revealed it to be Thomas Morland, making Mr. Sands Justin Morland's grandfather. Mr. Sands has these goons working for him. Whether they wanted to or not is not very clear, since he is able to use mind control. However, these goons were still human back in the days, which made it for Mrs. Sands harder since they would be full of emotions, obviously. But he wanted to do something about this. He wanted goons that would do anything he said without a question, who were human-like but didn't have emotions and who didn't really die. This is where he found a clockmaker called Bonnibel Blair. Bonnibel Blair was excited for her new job as an innovative organic machine operator, even though she didn't really know what it meant. She went to work on the dark core oil rig off the coast of Jorvik. She kept a logbook at the time, which was eventually shared with the player. In this she wrote, "I met some of the workers today, and I noticed that none of them seemed too ecstatic to be here. How can they be so laid back about the advancements of science and technology? They almost look like clones, standing in an oversized rubber poncho and giant stompy boots." But underneath the garb, she could see that they were human, each unique in their own way. One of the workers took a look at the big smile on Bonnibel's face and rolled his eyes, telling her, "The novelty will soon wear off." Hours later, she was still thinking about what that meant. The job was kind of disappointed for Bonnibel. She ended up having to hand clean barbed wire fences and polish bolts in the wall, while she expected to delve into the wonders of science and technology. Because of this disappointment, she actually thought of quitting on the spot, until Mr. Sands called her into the office at that very moment. He practically told her that they were merely watching her loyalty and were now ready to assign her her real task. All had now been revealed. She was to create robots that would be part man, part machine. They would be husk of humans with no emotions, merely cogs and wheels, with silicone skin stretched over. Using dark science, cloning, and secrets only Darkcore knew. Mr. Sand's goal was to expand their reach and one day serve the entire island of Jorvik with their so-called services. It was months later when Bonnibel Blair wrote in her logbook. She tells us that the clones were exactly how Mr. Sands wanted them to be. They only wished to see Darkcore succeed. She found it unsettling to create something so lifelike. She also couldn't ignore the fact that the more clones she created, the more workers disappeared. She almost got used to her new life with only her and a bunch of clones at sea. That's until she heard the cries of horses and cackles of humans ringing throughout the metallic shell of the base. The noise pierced her ears and she decided to sneak out of her bunk, determined to find answers. She saw Mr. Sands and four shadowy figures standing in the middle of the platform. Towering over them was a horrible, terrible sight. A portal to another place, swirling with darkness, emitting the cries of horses. Before she could process what she was seeing, they turned around. Her instincts kicked in and she fled, running down the bottom decks where she grabbed a rickety rowboat and went out there. The last sight she saw of them was them standing at the edge of the platform, watching her row away. She knew at that very moment her life was in danger. Bonnibel Blair fled and went into hiding in Silverglade Village. Here she changed her name. Bonnibel Blair was now forever going to be known as Big Bonnie. It is not exactly known when this was in the timeline, however it is believed to be around the time of when the current Soul Riders first defeated Mr. Sands before he returned back. Since making the deal with Garnog, he is becoming more evil with time. since he is exposed to the evil powers of Garnock. This turned into Mr. Sands always having to fight a different group of Soul Riders, since he would keep on trying to free Garnock, even if it took him centuries. It was to be thought that there would only ever be a fifth Soul Rider who will have all the powers of the four every 100 years. However, this was proven to be wrong later on, since there was only 30-year difference between the last Soul Riders and the current ones. Nothing is known about the other Soul Riders, only that they for generations battled against Garnock and Mr. Sands, performing ceremonies to hold Garnock back for how long they needed to. We only really know about the previous Sisterhood Soul Riders. The player gets to read about them in Catherine's diary. Catherine Holbrook Morland, daughter of Jasper Holbrook, was a part of this generation. As she was growing up, Catherine was introduced to the Droots along with meeting Elizabeth and Ava, her son, as Star Sisters. They had a shared destiny of being the Soul Riders. Catherine had a hard time fitting in with other people, but she was thankful for Elizabeth's help. Catherine was brought under Avalon and Evergrace tutelage for training and controlling her power, as she was the fifth Soul Rider. While she was only shown utilizing the Soul Strike power of the Lightning Circle, later was told by Linda that Catherine was learning to master all 4 circles of the Soul Riders. She was often paired up with her star sister Ava during her training sessions. However, one of them had led to an accident in Dino Valley, which led to Starshine's previous incarnation being trapped in ice. This, of course, led to Catherine feeling the relationship between her and Ava start to weaken. During one of Evergrace's crazy training sessions, she went with him to the Guardian's Dale to invoke a ritual for unknown purpose, but it caused her beloved horse Nemo to disappear. Catherine continued her adventures with the Soul Riders until she fell in love with Thomas Morland. Her fellow sister of the Moon Circle tried to warn her of the possible dangers of this relationship, but Catherine paid her no attention. Shortly after this, the sister of the Moon Circle disappeared. It wasn't long after that, due to unknown forces, the rest of the sisterhood fell into shambles, with her and Elizabeth being the only remains of the sisterhood. After the sisterhood fell, she and Thomas Morland married and started up Morland Stables, as it was her dream to do so. Sadly, she passed away shortly after giving birth to her son, Justin Morland. The rest of the sisterhood consisted of Elizabeth Sunbeam, Ava von Blissen, Caroline Westphal, and Sigrid Varinger. Elizabeth Sunbeam was the previous Sun Warrior before Anne von Blissen. In her previous years, Elizabeth bonded with the previous incarnation of Concord. Even after her time as a Soul Rider, Elizabeth still works with the Druids to keep Garnox and his dark forces at bay. After her incarnation of Concord passed on, she bonded with 2 other horses, Calliope and eventually Calante. Ava von Blissen, mother of Anne von Blissen. Not much is known about her, but she is shown in one of Catherine's memories. Ava is described as looking very familiar to her daughter Anne. She was connected to the Star Circle, having the power to heal. and she bonded with the previous incarnation of Starshine. She initially had a dislike of Catherine, especially after Catherine's powers grew out of control during a training session in the Valley of the Hidden Dinosaur. Starshine fell into the frozen lake and became trapped in the ice. Although Ava was able to heal Starshine, her bond with Catherine suffered heavily due to the accident. This led to further cracks in the sisterhood, ultimately ending in the failure of their Soul Rider cycle. Not much is known about the lost two sisters. In Catherine's diary, we learn about the Moon Sister who warns her and then disappears. It is later revealed in the books that this is a girl called Caroline Westfall who wrote the previous incarnation of Meteor called Casper. Caroline had a twin named Camilla who died off a cliff on Halloween 1995, although everyone at Jorvik thought it was Caroline instead. We know that she was born in November 1977. She also had a daughter called Mina. It's discovered that Caroline had pale skin, brown eyes, and long, wavy black hair. She always wore skull braces since she was interested in dark magic. However, since she was assumed to be dead, the people held a funeral for her with no body. The last remaining sister is the Lightning Soul Sister, who rode a previous incarnation of Tin Can. In the books, we got the Soul Sister's name revealed to be Sigrid. Helena, the writer of the books, confirmed that it's the same person as Sigrid Veringer from Dundal. Away from the city, away from her friends, Lisa's life was about to change forever. Carl Peterson, her dad, had secured a new job. The new job, however, would be in Jorvik at the Dark Core Corporation. Lisa was around 15 years old when moving day came along. She simply sighed as the worst day of her life. Her dad tried to talk to her, but he just had to take the job, and their old home just reminded him too much of Lisa's mother. Xiomara Maria Peterson was Lisa's mother and wife to Carl Peterson. She had passed away due to a riding accident, which left Lisa with panic attacks and a fear of horses. Later, it is known that Starshine helped her overcome this fear, but her fear of horses would also be coming from an accident she herself had endured. When the horse she was riding spooked because of a snake, Lisa was young and fell off, and she ended up getting hurt. Mr. Peterson and Lisa were almost at their destination when all of a sudden a horse and rider came running out of the bushes, almost getting hit by their car. This was Lisa's first meeting with Anne von Blissen and Concord. Anne hereby called Lisa Hedgehog Girl and said she would probably be seeing her at school. After that, she trotted away. At this time is when Fripp got a vision. The star had arrived. With luck, she would be just in time to save the dying steed Starshine. He then simply said, "It has begun." On Lisa's first day at school, she didn't only meet Anne again, but now she had also met Alex Cloudmail and Linda Chanda. However, in the comics, it was shown a little differently, but I'll be showing you how it went in Starshine Legacy, since it was kind of the same interaction. Lisa entered the school, looked at some of the trophies in the cabinet, and ended up meeting Mr. Sands. He was walking her way and stopped to talk to her. He simply asked her if she liked horses, with Lisa answering that she used to ride a lot, but then questioning who he was and why he was questioning her. He proceeded to tell her his name and that he sensed that she was once hurt by a horse. Lisa didn't answer and Mr. Sands walked away, telling her they would meet at a different time again. Lisa proceeded to go on with her day and met the other girls. She had some small conversations with them and helped Linda find the lost keys, which ended up being stolen by Sabine, who tried to get Linda in trouble by acting like Linda stole her phone and locked her in a locker. With the help of Alex, Lisa got a hold of Linda's keys and Sabine's phone. She returned Sabine's phone, making Sabine hate her for messing up her plan. It was later that day when Lisa wanted to return Linda's keys, but Linda at this time found herself at the Jorvik stables to have a ride on her beloved Meteor. As much as Lisa hated it, she ended up going to the Jorvik stables herself. Here she was met with the sick steed called Starshine. She was told by the vet that Starshine would be the fastest horse in Jorvik. However, now he didn't even want to eat or drink or even let anyone near him. She then was told that they might have to put him down before the vet walked away again. Lisa was shocked when she all of a sudden heard a voice in her head asking who she was. It was Starshine. Starshine and Lisa could hear and talk to each other in their head. They had bonded together. Starshine told her he needed help and that something dark was inside of him, and he needed her help to prove to Herman that they didn't need to put him down. In the comics, it is shown that Herman actually saw a mark of a star on Lisa, which matched the one on Starshine's. And so it was Herman's idea to get them riding together to see what would happen, since he had the sense that Lisa could heal Starshine. Starshine was brought to the riding arena together with Lisa, and miraculously, Starshine healed. They rode together and Starshine was saved. Yet, when she got off, Starshine fell down. See, Mr. Sands had been lurking around Jorvik stables for a while now, since he was wanting to find out if Starshine was the Soul Rider's horse, and so he was the reason for Starshine feeling sick. They took Starshine to the stables where Mr. Sands offered to take Starshine off Herman's hands, but Herman declined. Lisa later met Linda in the closed school library at midnight. Linda had done some research and found a picture of more than 100 years ago in which Mr. Sands was seen. The girls found old articles from the Jorvik correspondence, which I showed earlier in this video. However, there was a fourth and important one, which I left out. The article was called "Horse Saves 4 Girls Trapped in Old Ruins." It had a picture of 4 girls who looked quite like the 4 girls, Linda, Lisa, Alex, and Anne. And the horse looked identical to Starshine and was called Little Starshine. They stopped the research when a sudden phone call arrived. Mr. Sands had decided to make his move. He and his goons broke in and stole Starshine, wanting to sacrifice him to gain enough power to free his master Garnock. Lisa met up with Herman, Alex, and Anne, and they went over everything that happened. But then Lisa, Alex, and Anne got locked in the stables by Sabine, so Lisa had to escape. She escaped and went on a mission to save Starshine. A whole scene happened with Lisa sneaking into Darkor until she finally found her trusted steed. She healed him and broke his cage, where she then had to escape Mr. Sands. Of course, Lisa made it out together with Starshine, and that's kind of where Starshine Legacy ended, apart from a special race against Sabine. I won't go into too much detail for the other 3 riders, since that will take way too long, but I did find it the best way to do so for Lisa, since this is how they became friends and how the first Soul Rider was found. So let me just give a quick summary of how the other 3 girls and some of the Dark Riders got their start. Starshine Legacy 2 is from Linda's POV. It starts here a few weeks later with Linda doing some research for the school paper when she found a framed photograph of Pine Hill Mansion with Headmaster Stompkins and his chauffeur who looked almost exactly like Mr. Sands. She questions Herman at the Jorvik stables about it, and he gives quite an interesting reaction. He yells that she should stay away from that place and that bad things had happened there. She then ends up having a vision of Pine Hill Mansion but brushes it off, thinking she's just tired. She later meets up with Lisa in the arena and talks with her about the mansion and Mr. Sands, and they decide to meet up later at the mansion to do some investigation. Training went well until she had yet another vision of the Bog Dam exploding. She gets worried since a lot of people might be in danger, and then she suddenly hears the voice of Media in her head. They had a talk about the vision and Pine Hill Mansion and decided to get some answers. Arriving at Pine Hill, she finds out that Lisa is already in Pine Hill Mansion, however got trapped in the greenhouse. While trying to get into the greenhouse and help Lisa, she finds 4 paintings on the wall inside. As she's examining them, she realizes that they look like her friends. She decided to continue with helping Lisa and finds a way to the greenhouse and help Lisa escape. But just as Lisa climbed down the ladder, they hear a car arrive. It's Mr. Sands and his goons. They overhear them talking about a bomb in the dam and getting rid of Herman. They race the goons towards the Jorvik stables to get to Herman first. Mr. Herman is safe and they go into the stables, where they tell Herman everything they just found out. Herman then tells them the prophecy of the Soul Riders. Linda ends up going to the stone circle the next day and meets Fripp. Fripp teaches Linda how to use her powers, and she then sees a vision of the bomb again, which this time it has a timer. She now knows what to do. She goes to the dam to stop the bomb. It took her some time, but ended up dismantling the bomb and saving the people of Jorvik. Linda's story didn't really give us a lot of new information about Mr. Sands, but luckily the stories of Anne and Alex do. In Anne's story, which is Starshine Legacy 3, it is shown that Jessica is a main rival since they are both competing to get the best image for a magazine. This ends up with both of them having to take pictures with Anne's horse Concorde, and this is also the first time that Anne can hear Concorde. However, when it was Jessica's turn to take the pictures, Concorde ended up falling down while Jessica was touching him. As Jessica is secretly on Mr. Sands' side, she ended up separating his soul from his body, locking it in Pandoria. There's a clip shown of Alex walking home when she spots some of the goons attacking Derek the photographer. It appeared that Derek had some special photos of Anne and Concorde which the goons had gotten a hold of, but more of that will come later. Anne ends up walking to the secret stone circle, following Lisa as advised. On her way there, Alex calls her about a specific picture which shows Anne and Concorde with a special aura and wings. She continues away and meets Fripp. He tells her that she is one of the Soul Riders and explains what that means. He also explains that Concorde's soul is separated and finds itself in a place called Pandoria. Pandoria exists in the heart of all living creatures, and to get there is like walking through a dream. He lets her walk the path of the winds, which gains her access to Pandoria. Upon arrival, she walks past 4 horse statues, which all resemble the 4 Soul Riders. She reads the engraving and walks further, where she is met with some sort of paintings, which resemble the story of how Garnop was captured. When she goes deeper into Pandoria, she ends up having to make a puzzle to gain entry to the rest of this magical world. She solves it and goes on a search for Concorde. Once she finds him, he tells her to get on him and ride him out of Pandoria. That is the only way he will be reunited with his body, and so she does. Concorde is back with his body and Anne in Jorvik. She meets up with her friends who are accompanied by Derek. Derek tells how the cameras and batteries are special and how he is actually working for the government, but that the competition for the magazine was real. And ends up retrieving the batteries which got dropped in the woods and gives them back to Derek. Derek goes on to explain that the goons had stolen the pictures and they had to get them back, since they didn't want Anne's secret to be known, obviously. This leads up to Anne going to Dockall to retrieve the pictures. She sneaks around and retrieves the pictures one by one until she finally was found them all. Something caught her eye while retrieving the pictures. A bright light which looked like some sort of portal in the middle of the oil rig. She decided to go investigate what this could be. She rides closer, trying not to be spotted, and sees Mr. Sands together with Jessica standing in front of the portal. Jessica says that she will open the gate and create a maelstrom so that her reinforcements can arrive, and knows that it is a critical moment and decides to step in immediately. She rides up to them, and without them being able to fight back in such a quick moment, Concord turns around and kicks them into the gate instead. The story will continue with Alex Cloudmail, the last Soul Rider to find out about her powers, her future, and while the other girls are already suspecting it to be her, she obviously has no clue yet. Starshine Legacy 4 starts off with Alex having detention while also trying to help her kid brother, James, who got bullied in school. She helps James by standing up to Buck and her rival in this game, Katja. However, this just ends up in Katja challenging Alex to do the classic Scarecrow Hill race. Alex accepts and they go on to race after school. Everything goes well and it seems that Alex is winning the race since Katja isn't even to be seen in plain sight. However, once Alex arrives at the finish line by Jorvik stables, Katja is already standing there. Katja had cheated. There was no way she could have made it there earlier than Alex. Katja tells her how much of a better rider she is than Alex, but also tells them to just forget that and stop fighting. She turns to James and tells him that she's sorry that Buck was chasing him in school and to kiss and make up. She then kisses James, actually putting some magic spell on him, and leaves. The next day, Alex arrives at Jorvik stables when her mom suddenly calls. She's worried James is gone and Alex hadn't seen him. She meets up with the other girls and Linda tells her not to be worried, but she did have to show her something. She shows Alex a vision she had of Katja having James in her possession and having a power over him. Katja tells her in the vision that she will give Alex one more chance to win. She'd have to give her horse Tin Can to get James in return. They have to meet up the northern coast. But Herman tells her to visit the stone circle or glove first. And so she does. She meets Fripp and he gives her all the information which he gave the other girls and teaches her to use her soul strike powers. He tells her that once she uses her soul strike power, she will exist in two worlds at the same time. She would be channeling the energy from the soul strike from another dimension into this world. It's a bit later and Alex rides to the school to meet up with Linda, since Linda had just been robbed by Mr. Sands' goons. They stole her books and notes. They were planning on meeting up by the old mill, and so Alex decides to take it upon herself to retrieve Linda her books. She goes there and uses her soul strike to get the books back. Alex is back in the library and Linda is happy to see her with her books. Linda proceeds to tell her everything she had found. Since the dawn of time, Jorvik had been affected by something that lies buried deep in the ocean. In the early days of mankind, there were those who saw a starship crash into the sea. They believed it was a sign from the gods, but it was far more sinister and evil. All these legends date back to the Bronze Age. In the following years, it became obvious that whatever lies at the bottom of the sea is not dead, but sleeping. It is trapped under the water, but even so, it has used its mental powers to reach out from the dark depths to change the lives of people on the island of Jorvik. Legends are told of strange creatures being sighted in the past, monstrous beings of evil power, and I found a strange name, Garnock. Only 4 girls with their faithful horse companions could stand against the creatures and cast them back into the sea where they came from, she said as she showed a picture of girls who looked just like them, together with Fripp, battling Garnock. She also proceeded to show them fighting a different person who, ironically enough, looked like Buck. But before they could talk more about it, Alex received a call from Lisa. Lisa had heard from her dad that he had to go work at this random location for something called the Garnock Project. This immediately set off alarm bells for Alex. Alex decided to go to Devil's Gap and stop by the Garnock Project on her way, and so she did. A clip is shown of the Garnock Project locating itself close to a shore of the water. Alex finds a way through a pipe and takes a closer look. She sees an entrance way to the location of the project and needs a key card to gain access. She steals Ron from a goon and returns to the gate. She opens the gate and notices that there are goons. She eavesdrops into their conversation and sneaks in further. She spots Mr. Sands in a wheelchair being injured and his powers weak. Apparently the gate he went through because of Anne brought him back to the ship. It would take years for him to get his powers back. But he is going through with the plan. He tells his goons that once the final girl, which is Alex, trades Tin Can for her brother, they will sacrifice Tin Can and unlock Garnock's prison forever. He responds to one of his goons that she will obviously try to fight back, but she wouldn't know the ancient codes that describe how she could challenge them since they are hidden well. He goes on to tell them that they exist in the very book which he had at that very moment. However, as he is laughing, Alex strikes him and his goons with her soul strike, which causes her to steal the book and escape the Garnock Project to save her little kid brother James. She opens the book in a safe place and tries to find out what they need to do, together with Tin Can. She goes on to Devil's Gap and meets up with Katja, Buck, and James. Katja tells her to give up her horse for her brother, and Tin Can proceeds to tell her that it's the only way, that he will go. But Alex won't allow it. She challenges Katja one more time. But this time she challenges Katja according to the ancient codes of Pandoria. If she won, Katja had to let James go. Katja is surprised but accepts the challenge. Buck and Alex need to battle each other. However, Buck doesn't have any powers, and I'm not very sure if Katja knew that Alex had the Soul Strike powers. Alex, of course, ends up winning, but realizes that James is still not present in his mind. She confronts Katja, who tells her that the deal was to get James back, not that she would also stop him from being hypnotized. Alex challenges her yet again, but this time to a race, and if she won, Katja had to stop hypnotizing him. Katja agrees on the terms that if she won, she would get Tin Can and keep James. It's a difficult challenge, but Alex wins. Katja has to release James and she will be banished from Jorvik. She threatens Alex by saying that Garnock will come back and there would be nothing she could do about it. Katja's banished from Jorvik and is finally over. Alex has won and goes back to get James. She brings him to the stables where they all meet up with each other. James's head is confused and full of random images he doesn't understand. Linda, however, knows exactly what to do and tries to look at his mind. She sees Mr. Sands in what looks like Pandoria. He says that they have activated the 4 seals and they are gathering the energy needed to release Garnock. He would watch as the meddling Soul Riders disintegrated together with their island. He also mentions that the Soul Riders didn't know that these seals were linked to them, and so they were stealing their powers to unleash their glorious master Garnock. Knowing this, the Soul Riders knew what they needed to do. They had to go to Pandoria and destroy their own seal. And so they did. One before the other, they destroyed their seals and stopped Mr. Sands for the time being. This is where Starshine Legacy ended. Jorvik was safe for now, and the girls went their own way. Linda started working for the Baroness, staying in Jorvik, just as Alex did. Lisa went to Star Academy to proceed her music career and even ended up going on tours. Anne somewhat stayed in Jorvik and continued modeling and competing with Concord. Everything seemed well for the girls. Of course, not all can stay well, but this video is already way too long to sift through. So this was part 1, and let me know if you want a part 2.